From Richard inhaling food to the Wattersons blowing up stuff every other weekend, it raises a big question. What does it actually cost the Wattersons to live in Elmore? To answer this question, I financially audited the Wattersons, comparing their income versus their expenses to find out how they're actually surviving. And what we found by the end is very concerning. Let's start with the biggest expense of all, housing. The house would probably land somewhere around $500,000 minimum. And honestly, that's being generous. In some areas, a house that size could easily push closer to $700,000. And remember, Nicole and Richard bought the house before starting their family. So unless Richard secretly inherited oil money before becoming professionally unemployed, they almost certainly bought it through a mortgage, which means they're still paying monthly installments on this thing decades later. At today's interest rates, a mortgage on a $500,000 house would probably land somewhere between $3,000 and $3,500 a month, depending on the down payment, loan terms, taxes, and how much financial optimism the bank had when approving Richard Watterson. And that's before utilities even enter the chat, because the utility bills in that house have to be catastrophic. Electricity alone has to be insane. Gumball and Darwin somehow use every appliance in the house at maximum intensity at all times. That electrical wiring should have given up years ago. Then there's heating, water, internet, phone bills, trash collection, and whatever mysterious repairs become necessary after another minor incident turns the kitchen into a war zone. And the repair costs definitely deserve their own category entirely, because this family does not experience normal wear and tear. Most households deal with a broken sink or a cracked tile once in a while. The Wattersons deal with walls being obliterated, furniture being launched through windows, accidental fires, and occasional reality distortions. There are episodes where the house takes damage that would financially ruin an average family. Yet by the next episode, somehow everything is repaired like nothing happened. At this point, either Elmore contractors work for free, or Nicole has the greatest insurance policy in human history. Even basic maintenance would be brutal. Lawn care, roof repairs, repainting, replacing appliances, pest control, and property taxes all stack up fast in suburban neighborhoods. And considering how often their house becomes the center of citywide destruction, their insurance premiums should realistically bankrupt even big companies. So when you total everything together, the Wattersons' monthly housing expenses likely sit somewhere around $4,200 a month minimum, and that's being unbelievably kind to them. Realistically, it could go much higher, but let's move on. But before we get to that, I'm gonna tell you about this really cool app that I found, where you can literally message Gumball and the entire Watterson family, thanks to today's sponsor, Polybuzz. Polybuzz lets you chat with AI versions of basically anyone, ranging from your favorite cartoon characters to celebrities and so much more. Personally, I decided to talk to an AI version of Gumball, and let's just say he responded exactly how you would expect him to. Gumball, why is your family in so much debt?
Okay, first of all, define debt. Because if you mean the number, then yes, a lot. Staggering, actually. Thanks for asking in front of everyone.
Like, how much are we talking?
You know how a bank statement usually has numbers on it? Ours has a letter from a lawyer.
You can have full conversations with these characters, joke with them, roast them, basically whatever you want to do. The possibilities are literally endless. And on top of that, you can even create your own characters inside the app. So you already know I'm making Richard. If you guys want to try it for yourself, click the link in the description or the pinned comment. It's free to download, and if you use my promo code Gumball3, it unlocks premium features in the app with a free trial. Huge thanks to Polybuzz for sponsoring today's video, but now let's get back to Gumball's crippling debt. Next up is the food bill. It's no secret that this family burns through food. Richard alone probably consumes the equivalent of a small nation. You have to remember that Richard is home all day, which means unlike most adults who only eat breakfast and dinner at home, Richard has unlimited access to the kitchen 24/7. Every snack becomes a meal, every meal becomes 2 meals, and every grocery trip probably lasts around 48 hours before before the cabinets start looking empty again. There are entire episodes that are built around this man's inability to stop eating. If food exists within a 5-mile radius, Richard will somehow locate it. And then there's Gumball and Darwin, who somehow survive almost entirely off sugar, junk food, soda, candy, and microwaved meals. These two spend money like children who have never heard the phrase long-term consequences. Meanwhile, Anais is the only person in the family who actually understands basic nutrition, which ironically makes things even more expensive. Healthy food costs more. So now, Nicole somehow has to balance Richard inhaling entire cakes with Anais wanting actual fruits and vegetables that weren't manufactured in a laboratory. And Nicole herself probably relies heavily on coffee, quick meals, and takeout, because she's the only employed member of the household trying to maintain her sanity. Realistically, a family like this would order food constantly, simply because nobody has time or emotional stability to cook every night. Pizza nights alone probably happen often enough for the local restaurant owners to know them by name. So when you combine groceries, snacks, soda, fast food, pizza nights, and random convenience store trips, the Wattersons are likely spending somewhere around $1,700 every single month on food alone. And honestly, even that estimate might be low, considering Richard just buys food because he happened to look at it. If that wasn't enough though, the family also owns at least one car, and it's a miracle that it still functions. Seriously, the Wattersons' car has survived more destruction than most action movie vehicles. At this point, it shouldn't need maintenance, it should need therapy. And unlike everything else in Elmore, cars are expensive in very real ways. Even if the Wattersons own an older vehicle, the monthly costs stack up fast. First, there's fuel, which already becomes painful for a family constantly driving around town for school, work, shopping trips, emergencies, and whatever nonsense Gumball accidentally causes that day. Richard also seems like the type of driver who wasted half a tank just sitting in parking lots and eating snacks with the engine running. Then there's insurance, which honestly should be impossible for them to afford. No insurance company on earth would look at the Wattersons' driving history and calmly agree to coverage. This family has driven through buildings, off cliffs, into explosions, across sidewalks, and directly into situations that technically violate several laws of physics. And their repairs must be endless. Their car gets smashed, flipped, dented, overloaded, crashed into things, and somehow still returns the next episode being held together. Even basic maintenance becomes expensive over time. Oil changes, tire replacements, inspections, registration fees, and random part failures all add up. And considering the amount of reckless driving that happens in Elmore, those tires are probably being replaced every other month after another high-speed chase around town. Plus, older vehicles tend to become financial black holes. Once a car starts needing constant repairs, you're basically paying monthly subscriptions just to keep it alive. And the Wattersons absolutely look like the type of family to still be driving a car long after it started making sounds that should legally classify as cries for help. So this section alone should have a bill of at least $1,100 every month just to keep that one car alive. And let's not forget that the car's appearance has changed a lot. So it's likely possible that they have two cars, which would double the bill. But now let's move on to the schooling of the three Watterson children. Now on paper, Elmore Junior High appears to be a public school, which means tuition itself probably isn't an issue, but the hidden cost of having three children in school adds up incredibly fast, especially when two of these children are Gumball and Darwin. First, there are the standard costs. School supplies alone becomes expensive when you have to constantly replace things. Pens disappear, notebooks get destroyed, backpacks somehow explode, and electronics probably last about 3 weeks before getting caught in some experiment gone horribly wrong. Then there are lunches, snacks, after-school activities, event fees, class projects, and school clothing. Kids grow fast, which means constantly replacing their clothes, especially when your children spend half their time getting launched through walls or covered in mysterious substances. And modern school life quietly drains money everywhere. Anais probably needs advanced educational materials because she's really intelligent, above everyone else in her entire school. But honestly, the real financial damage comes from the chaos they cause. Gumball and Darwin have accidentally started disasters, destroyed school property, unleashed dangerous technology, and psychologically damaged multiple teachers. There is absolutely no way the family hasn't been forced to pay for damages, at least occasionally. Between everything, let's give the Wattersons a budget of around $400 a month for school-related expenses. Principal Brown probably also has a separate emergency budget specifically labeled Watterson incidents. Then we move on to entertainment and hobbies, which is where the Wattersons somehow continue spending money like a family that definitely should not be spending money. Because despite being one bad day away from financial collapse, they still manage to pour cash into video games, TV subscriptions, toys, movies, and whatever bullcrap that catches their attention that week, which honestly, they really don't need to be spending money on, especially considering how bad their financial situation already is. And Gumball and Darwin are the worst. If there's a useless product anywhere in Elmore, they've probably bought it, broken it, fought over it, and forgotten about it within 48 hours. These are exactly the kinds of kids who would spend their last dollar on a toy advertised as limited edition, even if it's literally just a plastic cube with googly eyes. Video games alone already cost a fortune, with consoles, controllers, replacement controllers, after rage incidents, online subscriptions, new releases, and probably several games they've played once before abandoning it completely. Gumball absolutely is the type of person to beg for a game nonstop, play it obsessively for 3 days, and never touch it again because he discovered a newer distraction. Even hobbies quietly burn money. Anais probably buys books, educational stuff, or scientific equipment. Richard spends a lot of money on food and lazy entertainment. Nicole likely stress buy things occasionally just to maintain what little remains of her sanity. And the biggest problem is that none of these purchases seem planned. The Wattersons operate almost entirely on impulse. They don't budget like responsible adults. They react emotionally to advertisements, trends, and whatever random crap they want to buy. So ultimately, let's budget for $800 a month for entertainment. But now, here's where things get scary. We've already broken down exactly what their expenses are, but now let's go over how much Nicole actually makes to see if they can maintain this budget. But before I break this down, make sure to subscribe for more awesome content like this. For her salary, we get a glimpse of it at the end of the episode, The Treasure, where the children wonder why they're so poor, and Nicole doesn't give them an answer, so they go into the attic to find out for themselves. And that's where, under a pile of bank statements, the fuel for the family is revealed. But even if we consider that to be a cartoonish joke, Nicole is effectively the sole stable provider in the household. Throughout the entire show, she works in the Rainbow Factory, and probably has at least 12 responsibilities that were never technically in her job description. She's overworked, sleep deprived, and visibly stressed at all times, which honestly makes her the most real cartoon parent ever created. Based on similar real-world positions, Nicole probably earns somewhere between $70,000 and $85,000 annually before taxes. And after taxes and deductions, that leaves around $5,000 a month in take-home pay. Maybe slightly more if she works overtime. But honestly, she already looks seconds away from exploding due to all the stress. But there's just one problem: the actual bills. The housing alone was already sitting around $4,200 a month. Food added another $1,700. The car expenses every month is around $1,100. School added another $400. Entertainment and hobbies pushed to $800. And that's before healthcare, birthdays, and anything that Frankie Watterson stole from the house. By this point, the Wattersons are comfortably burning through $8,000 every single month, while bringing in maybe $5,000 consistently. So how are they surviving? Well, there's only a few explanations. Either Richard secretly receives unemployment benefits, Elmore has unbelievably cheap healthcare and subsidies, Nicole could have hidden savings or cartoon physics that prevents the family from collapsing financially, but it still doesn't account for everything. So the most honest explanation is that the Wattersons survive because the show allows them to. Not because the numbers add up, but because the world is structured to reset after every disaster. Financial collapse is implied, almost joked about, but never allowed to fully happen. And maybe that's the real point. Beneath all the comedy, the Wattersons are a family permanently operating one step away from crisis, which honestly somehow makes them even more relatable, because a lot of real families don't fully solve financial stress either. They manage it, survive it, and delay it. They patch things together to move forward anyway. The Wattersons just exaggerate that reality to extremes. And at the end of the day, that's what makes them work so well. No matter how impossible the numbers get, no matter how broken the system looks on paper, they still get up the next morning, deal with whatever disaster is waiting, and somehow make it to the next episode. And while you're still here, check out Polybuzz in the pinned comment, and make sure to use my code to sign up. It helps out the channel more than you could could imagine. If you enjoyed this video, or you think I missed any expenses, make sure to go comment them down below. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe and click the video on screen. I'm sure you'll love it.